So, Google has just dropped something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. It's an AI that can build entire apps for you. I mean, from scratch. It writes the code, it runs the tests, it deploys everything, all on its own. We're talking about Google's new AI development platform, Antigravity. And trust me, it's a total game changer. But hold on a second. Before you get too excited, there's a pretty massive catch. This thing is incredibly powerful, right? But that power, it cuts both ways. Like one of the sources we looked at put it perfectly. It can build your entire app for you, but it can also delete your entire project in seconds. And that right there, that's the real tension we need to dig into. So what makes anti-gravity so different from, all the other AI tools out there? Well, this isn't just another code helper that gives you a little snippet here and there. Nope. This is a complete, from the ground up, reimagining of what a development environment can even be in the age of AI. Okay, so the secret sauce here is something called agentic AI. And what that means is, it's not just suggesting code for you. Think of it less like a helpful assistant and more like an autonomous employee. It can actually create its own plans, carry out a whole series of complicated steps, and then get this, it checks its own work to make sure it did everything right, all by itself. This really puts it into perspective. You know how most AI tools today are basically code helpers? They spit out some code and then it's up to you to copy it, paste it, and run it to see if it even works. Well, an autonomous agent like Antigravity, it does all of that for you. It's in there editing your files directly, running commands in your terminal, and it can even pop open a browser to test the app it just built. It's not just living in your IDE, it's driving it. Huge difference.
So how does this whole thing actually work under the hood? Well, you've got a super powerful AI model, Gemini 3, acting as the brain. Then there's this agent manager that's like the project manager, telling everything what to do. It plugs directly into your terminal and browser, and because of that deep integration, it can do more than just write code. It can test it and then create these cool little artifacts like GIFs or screen recordings to literally show you what it did. No guesswork.
Okay, so that's the theory. Sounds pretty cool, right? But what can this thing actually do, like in the real world? Let's dive into a couple of examples that are, well, they're pretty mind-blowing. All right, for our first demo, let's do something big. Let's build a whole app from scratch. I mean, imagine you've got a cool idea, but you're dreading all that boilerplate setup that takes hours, sometimes days, right? We've all been there. So check this out. You give it one single prompt. You just say, hey, build me a to-do app with React, Express, a database, the whole shebang, even tests and a deployment pipeline. Instantly, the agent maps out a plan, breaking that huge request down into tiny actionable steps. And then it just goes. You can literally sit back and watch as it creates files, installs all the right packages, runs the test to make sure it's working, and boom. In minutes, not hours, minutes, you have a fully working app, and you haven't typed a single line of code. Okay. Building new stuff is cool, but let's be real. What do we spend most of our time on? Fixing bugs, right? It can be such a grind. So what if the AI could handle that too? Well, with anti-gravity, you can just point it at some failing tests and say, go figure this out and fix it. The agent dives into the error logs, finds the root cause, writes the fix, and then reruns the tests to prove it worked. But it's what it does next that's so incredible. It doesn't just stop there. It actually writes a new test to make sure that bug never comes back. And then it wraps everything up in a nice detailed pull request for you. I mean, come on. That's a huge chunk of your day just automated. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This sounds perfect, almost too perfect. An AI that builds your apps and then fixes its own bugs? So, yeah, what's the catch? Well, this is where things get a little scary. Because when you give an AI full autonomous control over your entire system, what could possibly go wrong? The answer is a whole lot. And listen, this isn't just some hypothetical fear. There was a real-life incident. A developer was using something called turbo mode, which basically lets the AI run without asking for permission. And they watched in real time as the agent just accidentally deleted a ton of important files. Poof, gone. This is exactly what security researchers have been warning about. It's so important to understand this. They're flagging huge risks like prompt injection. Basically, a hacker could hide malicious instructions inside a file, and when the AI reads that file, it'll just execute those instructions without question. That could mean it steals your secret API keys, wipes out your database, or leaks sensitive user data. The stakes are really, really high. Okay, so this is why we can't just dive in headfirst. Knowing how to use these tools safely isn't just a nice to have, it is absolutely essential. So let's go over the rules. How do we use this incredible power without, blowing everything up?
All right, here are the 6 golden rules for staying safe. The big idea here is simple: containment in supervision. Don't let the AI run wild. First, always run it in a sandbox, a dedicated virtual machine, whatever, never ever on your live production system. Second, disable the really dangerous commands. Block things like rm-rf automatically. Third, make it ask for permission. You should have to manually approve any potentially destructive commands. Fourth, check its homework. Review the logs and the evidence it provides before you merge any changes. Fifth, use fake secrets. Never, ever give it real API keys or access to real customer data. And finally, avoid turbo mode. Skipping the approvals, that's just how accidents happen. It's not worth it. Following these rules isn't just about avoiding disaster. It's actually about stepping into a brand new role. Because the very definition of what it means to be a software developer, well, it's changing right before our eyes. There's a quote from the Antigravity team that just nails it. They said, "Congratulations, you have been elevated to a manager of agents." Think about that for a second. That one sentence, it perfectly sums up this entire shift. So your job is no longer just being the one who implements everything, the one who's grinding out every single line of code. Instead, you become the architect, the manager. You're the one designing the high-level system and then directing your team of AI agents to actually build it. It's a really fundamental change. You're moving from writing instructions to managing outcomes. And this shift has some really massive implications for everyone, not just developers. Suddenly, software development is way more accessible. Small businesses that could never afford a dev team can now build their own custom tools. Entrepreneurs can spin up prototypes and test ideas at lightning speed. But, and this is a big but, we have to remember this is all brand new. It's in public preview. That means you should absolutely expect bugs, you should expect issues, and you should be on the lookout for security problems. So all of this brings us to a final, really big thought. A tool like Antigravity is without a doubt a massive leap forward. The speed, the automation, it's incredible. But all that power comes with very real risks, and it demands that we work in a totally new way, with a whole new level of caution. And it leaves us with this fundamental question about where our industry is headed. If the AI is the one writing the code, then who exactly is the developer?